Hello friends, welcome to Learner's Planet. Friends, this is our fourth session for time, speed and distance. Friends, in our previous sessions, we have discussed the concept of relative speed, and I hope you might have revised that particular session and you'll feel more comfortable in this session. Okay, so let's begin to take some new concept and some new problems in this session. Now friends, let's revise the concept of relative speed with this problem, and I would recommend you not to touch your paper and pen as far as possible. Just try to do this problem mentally. Okay, it's a good food for thought. The distance between two cities A and B is 330 km. A train starts from A at 8 a.m. and travels towards B at 60 km per hour. Another train starts from B at 9 a.m. and travels towards A at 75 km per hour. At what time do they meet? Now friends, just listen to me carefully. I am not going to touch any paper and pen with you, and the same I expect from you. Okay. Initially, the distance between two is 330 km. Now just see carefully. The first train is starting at 8 o'clock. So before the other train starts at 9 a.m., it might have already covered up 60 km. Okay. So 60 km it has already covered up. That means before the other train starts, now they are apart for 330 minus 60, that is 270 km. Okay. Shall I revise it? Before B starts, the distance between A and B is 270 km. Okay. Now friends, every hour A is getting closer to B for 60 kilometers, and B is coming towards A at the rate of 75 km per hour. That means every hour they are getting closer by 60 plus 75, that is 135 km. So to meet, they need to cross 270 km. So every hour 135 km. So to gain 270 km or to cross 270 km, they just need 2 hours. Okay. So if B is starting at 9 a.m., so after 2 hours they are going to meet, that is at 11 a.m. Okay, friends, you might have observed that I didn't touch any paper and pen to solve this problem. Okay, just listen to this entire communication once again if you are not clear, and in the next step I'm just solving the problem even on the paper. Just see it carefully. Friends, initially the distance between these 2 points is 330 km, which is given to us. Now, the first train is starting at 8 o'clock and at the rate of 60 km per hour. That means after 1 hour, this is 60 and this distance is 270. Now, when B starts, A is here and B is here. Okay. And both of them have to cover the distance of 270 km. Now, the speed of B is 60 km and the speed of A is 75 km. That means every hour they are getting closer by 60 plus 75, that is 135 km. So to cover up 270 kilometers at the speed of 135, they will need 2 hours. So after 9 a.m., 2 hours is 11 a.m. Okay. Now friends, let's try this question. Two cars P and Q start at the same time from A and B, which are 120 km apart. Now, if the two cars travels in opposite direction, they meet after 1 hour. That means when they're starting like this, they meet after 1 hour. And if they travel in the same direction, that means if A is moving from A towards B, that means if A is moving in this direction, even B will be moving in this direction. Then they meet after after 6 hours. Okay. Then we have to find out the speeds of the cars. Okay. Friends, very interesting question. Now just see it carefully. When they are approaching towards each other, they are meeting 1 hour. Now let's assume the speed of car P is P km per hour, and the speed of car Q is Q km per hour. Now if they are coming towards each other, then the relative speed will be p plus q kilometer per hour. That means in 1 hour they will be running a distance of p plus q, and this p plus q is what? It is 120 kilometers, since they are meeting after 1 hour. That means both of them together will cover a distance of 120 kilometer. Okay, so p plus q is equal to 120. Okay, now if they are moving in the same direction, then the relative speed will be p minus q kilometer per hour. Now since A is here and B is here, already A is 120 kilometer far from B. So to meet B, A need to cover this 120 kilometer, or he has to gain, I'm sorry, this P has to gain 120 kilometer. Okay, now gaining speed of P is p minus q kilometer per hour, and to gain 120 kilometer it is taking 6 hours. That means per hour speed difference is 120 by 6, that is 20. Okay, so p plus q is 120, p minus q is 20, and we have to find out the speed of car P. That will be 120 plus 20, 140 by 2, that is 70 kilometer per hour. Friends, I'm sure you are clear. Just the simple concept of relative speed when two bodies are moving in the same direction and opposite direction. Okay. Friends, let's see this interesting question. Two trains start from P and Q respectively and travels towards each other at a speed of 50 and 40 km/h respectively. Okay, by the time they meet, the first train has traveled 100 km more than the second. We have to find out the distance between these 2 points, that is P and Q. Now, since they are moving towards each other, in 1 hour they will be getting closer by 90 km, that is 50 km this train is running, and 40 km/h this train is running. So in 1 hour both of them will together run 90 km. Okay. Now friends, suppose they are meeting somewhere here. Okay, and by the time they meet, the first train has traveled 100 km more than the second. Now friends, what is the difference between their speed? It is 10 km/h. That means every hour this train is running 10 km more than this train. That means to run 100 km more than this train, they will take 10 hours. Okay, that is 10 km/h. Okay, so in 10 hours they are going to meet, and if they are going to meet over here in 10 hours, that means this train will be running 50 into 10, that is 500 kilometers. Okay, and in 10 hours this train will be running for 40 into 10, that is 400 kilometers. So the distance between P and Q is 500 plus 400, that is 900 kilometers. Okay, a very interesting question, very simple concept. I hope you are clear with the concept. Now let's take the next problem. Now let's see this question. Bombay Express left Delhi for Bombay at 14:30 hours, traveling at a speed of 60 km/h, and Rajdhani Express left Delhi for Bombay on the same day at 16:30 hours, traveling at the speed of 80 km/h. How far from Delhi will the two trains meet? Now friends, both the trains are leaving from Delhi to Bombay. Okay. Now this train has left at 14:30 hours and this train is leaving at 16:30 hours. That means this train is running 2 hours more than this particular train before meeting. So in 2 hours, with the speed of 60 km/h, this train, that is Bombay Express, might have run for 120 kilometers. Okay, so before Rajdhani Express starts, Bombay Express is already 120 kilometers away from this place. Okay, now what is the gaining speed of this train, that is Rajdhani Express? It is 20 km/h. So to gain 120 kilometers, they will take 6 hours. Okay, I mean this train Rajdhani Express will take 6 hours. Okay, So after 6 hours, 80 into 6, 480 kilometers it might have covered up. So 480 kilometer from Delhi, they will meet. I'm sure you are clear. Friends, now let's see this interesting question. A train M leaves Meerut at 5 a.m. and reaches Delhi at 9 a.m. Another train leaves Delhi at 7 a.m. and reaches Meerut at 10:30 a.m. At what time the two trains cross each other? Friends, it seems that the data is insufficient in this particular question, since only starting and ending time is given in this question. Okay, but since there is none of these in the option, or no can't be determined among the options, so definitely there is a solution to the problem. So let's try. Okay, now suppose it is Meerut and it is Delhi, and let's say the distance between two is x kilometer. Okay, now this train, the first train, is covering the entire distance in 4 hours. Okay, so suppose that means that x kilometer it is covering in 4 hours. That means speed is x by 4 kilometer per hour. And this train is covering the entire distance is 3.5 hours. That means its speed is x by 3.5. That is 2x by 7 kilometer per hour. Okay. Now friends, this train is covering the entire distance in 4 hours. That means before the other train is starting, this might have covered up half the distance, since there is a 2 hours gap. Okay, it is starting at 5 a.m. and reaching at 9 a.m. In 4 hours, it is covering the entire distance. So before this train starts, it might have already covered up half the distance. Okay, so before this train starts, the first train is here. Okay, so it is x by 2 kilometer and it is also x by 2 kilometer. Now this is what the scene at 7 a.m. This train is over here and this train is over here, and the distance between them is x by 2 kilometer. Okay, at 7 o'clock. Now let's assume that after t hours they are going to meet. Okay, so in t hours this train will be running by x by 4 t kilometer. Since x by 4 is the speed and t is the time, so x by 4 into t kilometers this train will be running, and this train will be running for 2x by 70 kilometer. Okay, and both of them will together cover this distance, that is x by 2 kilometer to meet. Okay, now just cancel x. Okay, and it is 70 plus 80, that is 15t by 28 is equal to 1 by 2. So t is 14 by 15 hours, or we can say 56 minutes. So 56 minutes after 7 they are going to meet, that is 7:56 a.m. A very interesting question, friends, and I hope you are clear with the concept. Now let's see this question. An express train traveled at an average speed of 100 km per hour, stopping for 3 minutes after every 75 km. How long did it take to reach its destination, that is 600 kilometers from the starting point? Friends, very simple question. I would suggest that you try it on your own and match the final answer with mine. Even you can do this problem mentally. Let's say this is the starting point and this is the end point, and the distance between these two is 600 kilometers. Now at a speed of 100 km per hour, it will take 6 hours to cover this distance. And now we have to calculate the time of stoppages also. Since after every 75 kilometer, it is going to stop for 3 minutes. That means in 600 kilometers, there are 8 times 75. Okay, that means 600 by 75 is 8, but the 8th stop will be at the ending point. So precisely it is taking just 7 stoppage between the journey. Okay, so per stoppage is going for 3 minutes. So in all it is 21 minutes. So at 100 kilometer per hour, it will take 6 hours plus 21 minutes. That means in all it will take 6 hours 21 minutes to reach the destination. Okay. Now friends, let's try this question. Anu left for city A from city B at 5:20 a.m. City B and city A. She traveled at a speed of 80 km per hour for 2 hours 15 minutes. After that, the speed was reduced to 60 km per hour. If the distance between two cities is 350 km, what time did Anu reach city A? Okay. Now, initially for 2 hours 15 minutes, the speed was 80 km per hour. So in 2 hours, it might have covered up 160 km, and in 15 minutes, it can cover 20 km. That means in all, in 2 hours 15 minutes, it might have covered up 160 plus 20, that is 180 kilometers. Okay. So 180 kilometer at the rate of 80 kilometer per hour. After that, the speed was reduced to 60 kilometer per hour. Okay. Now, what is the remaining distance from 350? If we deduct 180, the remaining distance is 160. I'm sorry, 170. Okay. So 170 kilometer at the rate of 60 kilometer per hour. Now we have to find out the time. Okay, so it is 170 by 60 hours. Okay, or we can say 170 minutes. Okay, now in all, how much time it is taking? It's 2 hours 15 minutes. That means 120 plus 15, that is 135, and then 170 minutes. Okay, that means 305 minutes after the start. So it started at 5:20. After that, 300 minutes means 5 hours, and 5 hours plus 5 minutes. So 5 hours plus 5 minutes from this is not there in the option. It's 10:25 a.m. Okay. I hope you are clear. Now friends, try this question and then match your answer with mine. A person travels equal distances with the speed of 3 km per hour, 4 km per hour, and 5 km per hour. And he takes a total time of 47 minutes. The total distance in kilometer we have to find out. Okay. Now let's assume the distance which is covering every time is x kilometer. Okay. So if he is going at the speed of 3 km per hour, for x kilometer he will take x by 3 hours. Okay. Similarly, in this case he will take x by 4 hours, and in this case he'll be taking x by 5 hours, and the total time is 47 minutes, or we can say 47 by 60 hours. Okay, just take LCM and get the answer. So it's 47x is 47, that means x is equal to 1, and the total distance is 3x kilometer, so it is 3 into 1, 3 kilometers. Okay, I'm sure your answer is matching with mine. Now friends, let's say this question. A farmer traveled a distance of 61 km in 9 hours. He traveled partly on foot at 4 km per hour and partly on bicycle at 9 km per hour. The distance traveled on foot is, we have to calculate. Friends, very interesting question, and we have already discussed the alligation technique. If you are not clear about it, just do revise the alligation and mixture chapter. Okay, so just try to do with this technique. Now let's assume he's covering the entire distance on foot. That means he must be covering 4 kilometer per hour to 9 hours, 36 kilometers. It's foot and it is bicycle. So if he covers the entire distance on foot, that means he'll be covering 36 kilometers. And if he covers the entire distance by bicycle, he'll be covering 81 kilometers. That is 9 kilometers per hour for 9 hours. But actually he is covering 61 kilometers. So this is the ratio of time, that is 4:5. So 4 hours he is walking on foot. So 4 hours at the speed of 4 kilometers per hour, he'll be traveling for 16 kilometers. And friends, if you are not able to recall the alligation technique, then even you can go by the equation method also. Let's assume for x hours he is walking on foot. That means at 4 kilometers per hour for x hours he must be covering 4x kilometers, and remaining 9 minus x hours is covering at the speed of 9 kilometers per hour, and the total distance he covered is 61 kilometer. Okay, so 4x plus 81 minus 9x is 61. So 81 minus 61 is 5x. That means x is it is 20 by 5, that is 4 hours. That means for 4 hours he is walking on foot. That means in all 16 kilometers he is walking on foot. I hope you are clear with both the methods. Now friends, let's take a problem of average speed. A person travels from P to Q at a speed of 40 km per hour and returns by increasing the speed by 50%. What is his average speed for both the trips? Now suppose it's P and it's Q. So while going the speed is 40 and while coming the speed is 60, that is 50% more. Now let's assume this distance to be x kilometer. Now what is the concept of average speed? Average speed is actually total distance covered by total time taken. Okay, so we have to calculate the total distance by total time. Okay, now let's calculate the total distance which is covering. It is x kilometer while going and x kilometer while coming. So it's 2x kilometer, and we have to find out the total time. So while going the time was x by 40, that is distance by speed is the time. Okay, and while coming the time was x by 60. So this is the total distance and this is the total time. Now we just have to calculate it. It is x can be taken as common and finally it will get cancelled. So it is 2 into 40 into 60 by 40 plus 60, that is 100. So it is 6 4s are 24, 2s are 48 kilometer per hour is his average speed. Okay, and if you can memorize the formula that it is average speed is 2xy over x plus y. That is the formula for average speed where x and y are the speeds. Okay. Now friends, let's try this simple question. A boy goes to school from his house at the speed of 3 km per hour and returns at a speed of 2 km per hour. If he takes 5 hours in going and coming, the distance between his house and school is. Friends, if the ratio of speed is 3:2, then the ratio of timing will be 2:3. Okay, that means 5 hours can be broken in 2:3 ratio. That is 2 hours in this case and 3 hours in this case. Okay, so while going, he was running at 3 km per hour for 2 hours. That means he might have covered up 6 km. That is the distance between his house and school. Okay, in both the cases it is 6 km. Okay, so you don't have to go for any sort of paperwork in this question. Now friends, let's try this question. The average speed of a train in the onward journey is 25% more than the return journey. The train halts for an hour on reaching its destination. The total time taken for the complete to and fro journey is 17 hours and the distance is 800 kilometers. We have to find out the speed of the train in the onward journey. Now, the speed in the onward journey is 25% more than return journey. That means it is 125% of return journey. And 125% is what? It is 5 by 4. That means the speed ratio of onward to return is 5:4. That means timing ratio will be 4:5. Friends, the total time taken for the complete to and fro journey is 17 hours and it is taking 1 hour halt at the destination. That means actually it's running for 16 hours and covering a distance of 800 kilometer. So the average speed is 800 by 16, that is 50 kilometer per hour. So average speed is 50 kilometer per hour. Okay. Now we are having the ratio of speeds of to and fro. Okay. Now we have to find the speed of the train in the onward journey. Now what is the speed? In this case, it's total distance by total time. So the total distance that is one way is 400 kilometer and the time taken is 4 by 9 part of the total time. So 4 by 9 of 16 hours since it is taking halt for 1 hour. So it's 4 by 9 of 16. Okay. So it's 400 into 9 by 4 into 16. That is 56.25 kilometer per hour. Okay. I hope you are clear. Now friends, try this question. I started on my bicycle at 7 a.m. to reach a certain place. After going a certain distance, my bicycle went out of order and consequently I rested for 35 minutes and came back to my house, walking all the way. I reached my house at 1 p.m. If my cycling speed is 10 km per hour and my walking speed is 1 km per hour, then on my bicycle I covered a distance of. Okay. Now friends, on bicycle and on walking, in both the time this person is covering the same distance. Okay. And the total time which is taking is from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. is 6 hours. And in this duration, he is taking a break of 35 minutes. That means out of 6 hours, 35 minutes he is taking break. That means he is covering the entire distance in 5 hours, 25 minutes. Okay. So 5 hours and 25 minutes, or we can say 5 into 60, that is 300 hours and 25 minutes, that is 325 minutes. Okay. Now friends, this is the total time which he is taking in covering this distance. Okay. So here the cycling speed is 10 km per hour and walking speed is 1 km per hour. That means cycle is to walk ratio is 10:1. That means the timing ratio in this case will be 1:10. Okay. So speed ratio is 10:1. This is cycle, this is walking. That means time ratio will be 1:10. Now we have to find out the distance covered on cycle. Okay, so in all he is taking 325 minutes to cover this particular distance. Let's convert this time into hours. It is 5 hours and 25 by 60, that is 5 by 12. So in all it is 65 by 12 hours. Okay, now we have to distribute this 1:10 in 65 by 12 and we have to find here the distance covered by bicycle. So the distance is speed into time. Speed in this case is 10 km per hour and the time taken is 1 by 11 of this. So 1 by 11 of 65 by 12. Since the timing ratio is 1:10, that means the total time is 11 parts, and out of that 1 by 11th part is taking by bicycle, okay, of this time, okay. So it's 10 into 1 by 11 into 65 by 12. It is something around 650 by 132, okay. So we cannot get the answer in 2 digits. So it must be obviously this, okay. So I hope you are clear. It's just a simple relationship of speed and time. And we know that the speed is inversely proportional to the time. If speed ratio is 10:1, then the timing ratio will be 1:10, okay. Yeah, let's see this question. A, B, and C are on a trip by a car. A drives during the first hour at an average speed of 50 km per hour. B drives during the next 2 hours at an average speed of 48 km per hour. And C drives for the next 3 hours at an average speed of 52 km per hour. They reach their destination after exactly 6 hours. What is their mean speed? Friends, in this case, we have to find out the average speed of the journey. Okay. And since there is a direct formula, you can use that, but I would recommend not to use formula. Okay, just go logically. A drives during the first hour at an average speed of 50 km per hour. That means 50 km distance might have been covered up. After that, B is driving for 2 hours at 48 km per hour. That means 96 km. Then C drives the next 3 hours at 52 km per hour. That means it is 156. Now this is the total distance of the journey and this is the total time of the journey. So we can calculate the average speed. And the total distance is 50 plus 96 plus 156 is 302 kilometer. Okay. So average speed is total distance by total time. Okay. So it's 302 by 6. 302 by 6 hours. Okay. So it's 50 point something. And there is only one option. It's actually 52 by 6 or we can say 51 by 3. So it's 51 by 3 kilometer per hour. Okay. I hope you are clear. Friends, we'll be doing more such problems and questions in our next session. Till then, do revise this session. Bye-bye.